Hello, everyone. This is Marisa Tremaine for EDU 1107 Micro Teaching Assignment. My assignment was on Theory of Psychosocial Development by Erik Erikson. Erik Erikson was a psychologist. He was born June 15th, 1902 in Frankfurt, Germany. He had a complicated childhood. He was born out of wedlock and never knew his real father. His mother married his pediatrician at a very young age, and he believed him to be his father until they finally told him the truth in late childhood. He remained bitter about the deception all his life. This is believed to be the contributing factor to his devoted study of identity. Theory of psychosocial development. Psychosocial theory does not focus on the obvious physical changes that occur as children grow up, but rather on the social emotional factors that influence an individual's psychological growth. At each point in development, people cope with a psychosocial crisis. In order to resolve the crisis, children and adults are faced with mastering the developmental task primarily to that stage. Erikson goes on to specify each stage we go through in our lifetime. If the skills in each stage is successfully achieved, it leads to an ability that contributes to lifelong well-being. Stages of psychosocial development. There are 8 stages. Stage 1 is trust versus mistrust. Stage 2, autonomy versus shame and doubt. Stage 3, initiative versus guilt. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. Stage 5, identity versus confusion. Stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. Stage 7, generativity versus stagnation. Stage 8, integrity versus despair. And as we go through these stages, you are going to see how, starting with the very first stage, it kind of sets you up for each stage to follow. Stage 1 is trust versus mistrust. This occurs between birth and 18 months. This is the most important period in a person's life because it shapes our view of the world as well as our personalities. In this initial stage, a child learns whether or not they can trust the world. It is the care they receive from their parents and other adults that is critical to forming this trust. Because an infant is entirely dependent upon his or her caregivers, the quality of care that the child receives plays an important role in shaping of the child's personality. Failure to develop trust can result in fear and a belief that the world is inconsistent and unpredictable. They even use the example of when a baby is crying, um, especially like when the child's crying because they're hungry. And the child that is picked up and, kind of given what they need in that instance forms trust. The child, though, that is neglected and is not picked up or given what they need in that time, they're the ones that are going to view the world as inconsistent and unpredictable, and it's going to affect the next stages in their life. Stage 2 is autonomy versus shame and doubt. This occurs between 18 months to 2 to 3 years of age. According to Erikson, children at this stage are focused on developing a greater sense of self-control. When they progress into this stage, it is important for young children to begin developing a sense of personal independence and control. Tasks that are important during this stage are toilet training, food choices, toy preference, and clothing selection. Children who successfully complete this stage feel secure and confident, while those who don't are left with a sense of inadequacy and self-doubt. Stage 3 is initiative versus guilt. This occurs during the preschool years between ages 3 and 5. Children begin to assert their power and control over the world through directing play and other social interactions. If they have successfully completed the earlier stages, kids now have a sense that they can trust the world and that they can now act independently. This is a pivotal time for them to learn things on their own. By doing this, they can develop ambition and direction. This equals the initiative. When parents are dismissive or discourage exploration, this may cause children to feel ashamed and to start to depend on others. This stage can be frustrating for parents and caregivers since children will try to have more control over decisions that will affect their lives. These decisions can be the friends that they play with, activities they engage in, the way they approach different tasks. It is important to let children make such choices. It is also important for parents to enforce safe boundaries and encourage children to make good decisions. Children who are over-directed by adults may struggle to develop a sense of initiative and confidence in their own abilities. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. This occurs between the ages of 6 to 11. School and social interactions play an important role during this time. Through social interactions, children begin to develop a sense of pride in their accomplishments and abilities. The realm of social influences increases dramatically. Friends and classmates play a role in how children progress through the industry versus inferiority stage. Through proficiency at play and schoolwork, children develop a sense of pride in their abilities. This leads to strong self-concept. Children in this stage also start to realize their abilities are better than their friends, and this can lead to feelings of confidence. The opposite can happen as well, where kids may discover that they are not quite as capable as the other kids, which can result in feelings of inadequacy. Children that have parents and teachers who are encouraging develop a feeling of competence and belief in their abilities. Children that receive little or no encouragement from parents or teachers will doubt their ability to be successful. This can set the stage for later problems in development. This stage is the most vital in developing self-confidence. Stage 5 is identity versus confusion. This occurs between ages 12 to 18. This is where we see ego identity. Ego identity is the conscious sense of self that we develop through social interaction, which is constantly changing due to new experiences and information we acquire in our daily interactions with others. During this stage, the conflict is centered on developing a person's identity. In this stage, teens may begin to feel confused or insecure about themselves and how they fit into society. As they seek to establish a sense of self, teens may experiment with different roles, activities, and behaviors. This is an important process to forming a strong identity and developing a sense of direction in life. Teen behavior often seems unpredictable and impulsive, but all of this is part of the process of finding a sense of personal identity. Parents and families still have influence, but outside forces also become important. Those who receive proper encouragement and reinforcement through personal exploration will emerge from this stage with a strong sense of self and independence. Those who remain unsure of their beliefs will remain insecure and confused about themselves and their future. Resolving the crisis at this stage involves committing to a particular identity. This might involve committing to a career path, deciding what social groups to associate with, and even developing a sense of personal style. Those successful develop fidelity, a psychological virtue characterized by the ability to relate to others and form genuine relationships. Those not successful may develop what is considered role confusion. Instead of feeling personal cohesiveness, they are left feeling disappointed and confused about their place in life. Stage 6 stage 6 is intimacy versus isolation. This occurs between ages 19 and 40. The major conflict centers on forming intimate, loving relationships with other people. Success leads to fulfilling relationships. Failure can result in feeling of loneliness and isolation. Learning to be open and sharing with others is vital to success in this stage. If someone failed at the previous stage, identity versus confusion, they will have less committed relationships and are more likely to suffer emotional isolating loneliness and depression. So here we're starting to see where failures in previous stages are starting to add up in our future and adulthood. Stage 7 is generativity versus stagnation. This happens between ages 40 and 65. In this stage, adults strive to create or nurture things that will outlast them, often by parenting children or contributing to society by doing things that will benefit future generations. Generativity refers to making your mark on the world by caring for others and making the world a better place. Stagnation refers to the failure to find a way to contribute. These individuals feel disconnected or uninvolved with their community and with society as a whole. At this stage in life, people might experience a midlife crisis. This is due to them reflecting back on their accomplishments and consider the direction of their future and feel regret. There is a list of conflicts that contribute success or failure in this stage. That is inclusivity versus exclusivity, pride versus embarrassment, responsibility versus ambivalence, productivity versus inadequacy, parenthood versus self absorption, honesty versus denial. These are all different conflicts that we'll face in this age range that contribute to where we end up. Stage 8 is integrity versus despair. This occurs between ages 65 until we die. Psychologists, counselors, and nurses today use the concepts of Erikson's stages when providing care for aging patients. Erikson was one of the few theorists to look at development across the entire course of one's lifespan. The key conflict in this stage is questioning whether or not the individual has led a meaningful, satisfying life. This stage begins when the aging adult begins to tackle the problem of their mortality. Successfully resolving the crisis at this stage leads to the development of what Erikson refers to as ego integrity. Ego integrity means that people are able to look back at their life with a sense of contentment and face the end of life with a sense of wisdom and no regrets. Successfully completing this phase means looking back with few regrets and a general feeling of satisfaction. Those unsuccessful will feel that their life has been wasted and will experience many regrets. The individual will be left with feelings of bitterness and despair. According to Erickson's theory, individuals don't experience integrity or despair all the time. Instead, most healthy individuals experience a balance between each as they begin to make sense of their lives. So, in conclusion, I can definitely see the correlation between this theory and the phases in our lives and see how the success or failure of the previous stages contribute to where our life or our life course, which way it goes. This is helpful information in knowing how to help those around us have success or to explain causes of some behaviors and even in ourselves. As a teacher, this information is powerful and it gives us insight into the students we teach and how we can help encourage our students in the ways that they need specifically. I do want to give a disclaimer. It is important to keep in mind that this is a theory and that it has had some criticism. One major criticism is that the exact mechanism for resolving conflict and moving from one stage to the next are not well described. The theory fails to provide details about how an individual can move from one stage to the next. While understanding these stages can be helpful, it is important to keep this in mind. That is my presentation. I hope you have gained some knowledge from it. Um, I do think it's very insightful, and I just hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.